קודם כל ענה. לתת כל הכבוד ליו. יו הוא הבורא לבדו, אחד, ואין שני ואין דומה לו. ואנו עבדיו שכן הוא חי וקיים. ולפי רצונו אנו נלך יומם ולילה, לאורך כל הדרך. סלע. שוב בבקשה. All of the elders, may the Holy One of Israel continue to watch over you, keep you, as you've watched over us and kept us. Eternally thankful for every opportunity that I get to extol your names. And to all of you, the chosen, saints of the Most Holy, citizens of Yah's kingdom, servants extraordinaire, in this extraordinary generation, in the end game, may the Holy One of Israel continue to watch over you and give me the blessed opportunity to be your servant. What I would like to do this evening, the first part of this message, I have decided to call this the final onslaught. And an onslaught is a fierce attack. It is pointing very directly at all of our families that are still in the diaspora. But nevertheless, the impact of what is taking place is also affecting, can affect the lives of those that are in the sanctuary at Jerusalem. I pray that you be very, very attentive and apply your lessons from the whole. The whole. First, you must be blessed to hear it. Blessed are your ears. Thereafter, you must be blessed to internalize it. Let it in. Hear what the Father is saying, to internalize it. Thereafter, to apply it, to do it, so that it does not become a vain thing. To apply it, and thereafter to hold fast, hatmada, to hold fast, for all of the things that have been promised by the prophets through divine revelation from Yah Yisrael will certainly come to pass. Many of them we've lived through, those experiences that have been promised by the prophets, and I do pray that we realize that. Many of the things that were promised by the prophets, according to our historical record at this time, as you review National Hebrew History Month, our experiences, you can certainly bear witness that they have come to pass. They have come to pass. The ingathering is no longer a promise, it is a reality. The coming of the kingdom of Yah, it is no longer just conversely, looked forward to. It is a reality. And those that were to be part of the first, second, third, fourth generations of that kingdom, that they, in fact, have converged at Jerusalem. To converge, the great convergence, which you hear the Father speaking to on many occasions. A great convergence is when men, women, sisters, brothers, sons, and daughters that have been chosen, that are scattered to diverse areas on this planet, and at an appointed time they were to converge at Jerusalem for the great, valiant confrontation with the sons of darkness. And I've mentioned to you, and it is certainly not hard to comprehend, that if those men and women are not already on this planet, not only on this planet, but having matured and are prepared now to engage in a valiant confrontation against the sons of darkness, it is obvious if they have not been born yet, they'll arrive too late. They will arrive too late. Because as we consider at this time the state of this planet, the state of the people on this planet, 20, 25 years, someone having to be born, someone having to be raised, become an adult, to learn, to mature, to the extent that they would be prepared for this confrontation, they will arrive too late. So indefinitely, undoubtedly, it is factual that those men and women, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, they're walking this planet. Not only are they walking this planet, but they have begun the great convergence here at Jerusalem, spoken of by Isaiah the prophet. So what I want to share with you, to give you a very, very transparent picture of the state of this world and what this means unto us and the direct threat that this poses, the immediate threat that it poses to all of those that are still in the diaspora. It is obvious, it is more than obvious, that we as a species, the Adamic civilization, are literally fighting for our survival on this planet. Take that literally. It's not a joke. It's not a game. Said we, your species, the Adamic civilization, are literally fighting for our survival on this planet. The sons of darkness are obviously aware that an environment can be created in which we cannot survive. An environment can be created in which we cannot survive. And it is obvious as we consider these materials and internalize them that he has in fact created that environment. He has created that environment. So that you understand the significance of being in the sanctuary at Jerusalem and the dangers of being anywhere else other than in the Edenic lands. I want to begin with sharing with you some information from an article entitled, "This is How the Food Industry Makes Americans Fat and Hungry." This is how the food industry makes Americans fat and hungry. Because you've got to understand the mind behind all of this so that you will have no doubt of the danger of allowing it to continue to dominate this planet and be inspired to do all that is necessary. There is no other salvation. Either we halt this onslaught or you perish. It's just that simple. We are literally fighting for our survival on this planet and except that you find the inspiration to fight, to commit with all of your heart, soul, and might, you won't survive on this planet. This is how the food industry makes Americans fat and hungry, inundated with foods and drinks that contain high fructose corn syrup. The U.S. food industry is largely at fault for driving up obesity rates, since the cheap sweetener inhibits the brain from regulating the body's appetite. It inhibits the brain from regulating the body's appetite. From soda to ketchup, processed foods and beverages contain fructose, which affects the region of the brain that regulates appetite. Now, what they're saying, these scientists, and the things that they're discovering and utilizing in this social system, that they've discovered now that there is a substance in high fructose corn syrup that inhibits the brain's ability to stop eating. So individuals just continue to eat. They stay hungry. They stay hungry. So now, what do you think occurred when they made that scientific discovery? They had a toast. Because this is capitalism. You've got to understand this mind. Don't forget now, they're still selling cigarettes. Still selling cigarettes, in all of this capitalistic world, they're still selling cigarettes. Western Europe, Eastern Europe, the U.S., they're still selling cigarettes. So this high fructose corn syrup, that there is a substance in it that inhibits the brain from being able to notify you that you've eaten enough. You're full. Now you would think that when they discovered this, that they would say, scrap that. No, we don't. No, absolutely not. What could have been the discussion? If one of your scientists, if a truth-centered scientist had made such a discovery, what would he have done? There's no discussion. Oh, this is faulty. Say it again. Shut it down. Shut this down. But you can see these two different minds at play. What would you have done 4 decades, 5 decades ago with cigarettes? There would be no more manufacture. You've got to see these different minds and understand there is no other salvation. There is no salvation under that social system. So, these individuals, victims of their own social system, of their own politicians, they're the victims, and we feel for them. Because they don't understand. And once, we didn't have any understanding. But the gift that you've given your children, our children don't even know what high fructose corn syrup is. They don't even know what it is. Upward of 95% of them have none of that in their system. All praises to you. Thank y'all for you. This is the inheritance that you've given to them. If they don't understand the value of it, that's their problem. But they don't even know what high fructose corn syrup is. They've never had anything that contains it. Now we look at the extent of obesity and all of the diseases that come as a result of obesity and the processing industry, the system, capitalism, they're cheering and clapping, getting bonuses. What a discovery. makes them fat and hungry. Shuts it down. Can't stop eating. They stay hungry. They can't stop eating. So you see all of that all over that world. You understand that they're victims of their own social system. And except that they come out of it, there is no salvation for them. Because remember now, they're still selling cigarettes. Except that they come under another idea, there is no salvation for them. They're still selling cigarettes. In that social system, there is no salvation. Moving onward. Now, this isn't the first time that you've heard this subject. But just like the trumpet at Mount Sinai, and the trumpet continued to get louder, the voice of the trumpet, the voice of Yah, continued to get louder and louder and stronger and stronger, more determined than ever to make the people hear. Chemicals cause gender bending. Now this is the 6th of the 3rd month, 2013. Durban, the United Nations has published a disturbing expert report which suggests that hundreds of hormone-disrupting chemicals may be implicated in the increasing rate of sexual deformities, infertility, cancers, and other reproductive problems in people and wildlife across the world. Now, if any of you have had the occasion to view The Vanishing Male, now in The Vanishing Male they spoke of the disappearing male. Thousands of these chemicals that many of them have never even been tested. They're just out there. They're just out there, thousands of these chemicals. And I'm saying this because you've got to understand we've got to continue to pull back out of that world. The less that we depend upon it, the better off that we're going to be. We've got to continue to pull back, disengage from that world. The less that we depend upon it, the better off we're going to be. It cites recent studies which suggest that babies exposed to unusual levels of male and female hormones while still in the womb could undergo an alteration of their brain structure to the extent of changing their sexual orientation permanently. In the womb. In the womb. Ultrasounds mean nothing anymore. Genitals mean nothing anymore. They are determining. When you look now and you see the extent of this perversion all over the planet, you say, but what is happening here? You look up and it seems like an entire social system has come out of the closet. Every day, every week, politicians, actors, stars, what they call stars, that sports figures, to the extent that now, it's just so overwhelming. Religious figures. What has happened? And it is obvious that this is coming in some other way other than just door to door, somebody influencing someone else. This is coming in many instances without choice. They're exposed. Can you imagine now? Some of you are still bearing children. But if not, looking at your grandchildren, that in the womb, ultrasounds mean nothing. Genitals mean nothing. That they're determining, the sex orientation of the children now in the womb, from nipples, from plastic, all of these things that have chemicals in them that many of them, they're not even aware, hundreds and thousands of them. To the extent of changing their sexual orientation permanently. This is our generation. Your grandchildren that are in the lands of the captivity, when you look into their faces, lack of knowledge, what can you say to them except to come out? What is a message to them except to, another come out, what is the message? What can we say to them? That's the social system. And it's coming now without choice. And they look up in their children now. Their children will have nothing to do with their sexual orientation. A new normal start. So what do we say? What do we say? How blessed are our children that y'all blessed us to shield. To shield and protect as best that we were able to, as we were fighting with our backs against the wall, fighting valiantly. Is it now says from the womb? I'm going to get me an ultrasound to say, shut up! Ultrasounds have been phased out as the instrument for determining or revealing to you the sexual orientation of your children. Say it again. It's no longer biological. You can't no longer, when your baby jump out of the womb and you see the genitals, it has nothing to do with what their sexual orientation is going to be. What is our message? This is now. And there are thousands of these chemicals. They don't even know all of the chemicals that are causing this. They can't keep track of it. Permanently. In many cases, evidence of gender-bending properties in some chemicals was mirrored in humans and animals. Nevertheless, there was already evidence that some baby boys showed early signs of feminization from exposure to a common plastic softening chemical while still in the womb. While baby girls exposed to high levels of male hormones became more masculine when they reached puberty. This is now. This is now. What is the message? What can we say? First of all, we're eternally thankful unto you. Whatever. This is now. It's not a game. I mean, these things now, they've been making mention of these things now for years. But it says disturbing, urgent report now. That means that it's beginning to overwhelm. I mean, that it is becoming now so available. These chemicals come out of her. All of these little sweet-smelling things that they've got out there, you better see if some saint can make it, or can make some. Whatever it is that we're making now, be it in the area of cosmetics or whatever we're making now. Those that have those types of professions, that kind of divine chemistry, understanding of chemistry, that we've got to continue to pull back. Because all of those little sweet-smelling things that we continue to use, don't know, sir. More than likely because, and remember now, and except that we find it out, if he finds it out, it'll be another toast. They are aware. I remind you again now, they're still selling cigarettes, killing 400,000 Americans every year. Millions worldwide. They're still selling them. Moving on. The coolest black family in America. You've got to understand now, because I'm saying that the sons of darkness are aware, that there's a certain environment that we can't survive in. The bishop on the right, and now they've got a baby. But that's a baby. They've got a baby now.
The coolest black family in America, number 10. The Burgess Allens, Rashad Burgess, and the Bishop, Oliver Clyde Allen the third, are loving the Lord and their own loving union.
There is no other name, and there is no other salvation. Now, whatever the name that he's calling upon, whatever the God that he's calling upon, and that he feels justified in that, there is no other salvation. Oliver says Rashad balances him out in many ways. Rashad was the one on this side. Oliver is the male in this relationship. Rashad is the female. Number one, he's smarter than me, says the man who studied philosophy at Morgan State and religion at Morehouse College, currently taking courses at Harvard. Rashad is very organized and systematic in his approach to life. I cannot imagine my life without him, especially as it relates to business and of marriage, when it comes to building a family, having resources and goals. He's the one who makes sure we have the life we desire. Rashad attended the University of Chicago, where he's from, a bachelor's degree in public policy and a master's in social science. Rashad is branch chief in the Center for Disease Control. And he's the first gentleman of the Vision Church, where his husband is pastor. You catch it? Language. He's the first gentleman instead of the first Gentile. But Rashad makes it clear. This is the woman. Quote, my primary role is taking care of our home. I want to make sure that we have a happy home and the bishop is taken care of, seeing that there's food, the finances are in order, etc. But making sure I can create an atmosphere that he wants to come home to. You can't take it. I mean, that's this right. This is not a movie. This is real. Ebony magazine. This bishop. I mean, religion. All of that's involved in it. Next, Time magazine covers. This is last week's issue. Can you read it again, sir?
Gay marriage already won. The Supreme Court hasn't made up its mind, but America has.
And on this same issue, they put two different covers. Now that's just one. Here's the second.
Take your pick, huh? Same message. Gay marriage already won. The Supreme Court hasn't made up its mind, but America has.
This is the cover of Time magazine. Back to that first one first. I mean, you can't survive in that. I mean, just we sitting here and having to accept looking at that for this brief span of time. I mean, it does something to you. You can see that if you had to go through this trauma day by day, not knowing who to, what to, how to, I mean, just to address, you don't know how to address anyone. That truth has become void. I mean, how do you address them? Who do you address? Who are you addressing? What are you addressing? I mean, you can see the boldness of this. It says a fierce onslaught. A fierce attack. You can see this end game. This final onslaught. This is the cover. Ebony, Time. Feel the spirit of this. So what is the message? What are we supposed to say? Anybody talking about education, the others, those are all educated. Did you read those? I mean, that bio? Harvard, Morehouse, highly educated. Got to understand now where we are. And if we don't fight valiantly, again, we, the all species, the Adamic civilization, we're literally fighting for our survival on this planet. Literally fighting for our survival on this planet. I mean, you can't even anymore, you can't say this is wrong anymore. You can't teach that and be caught. I mean, so now, understand, you've got to internalize and understand. What message could we give anyone in that society except come out? It's simple. Put your bags by the door. When the phone rings, pray. Pray that's my call. Pray that's my call. And as it is written in the words attributed to Yeshua, and when the phone call comes, well, I need 6 more months. Pass him by. Because everyone that is hearing and internalizing and applying that, they are ready now. There is no more getting ready. What does it have to contribute to your process? Only to your demise. The only thing that system can contribute is to your demise. Not finished. Now, this is on a billboard. All across America, he's publicizing his latest album, his latest release. And the name of it,
I am not a human being.
and the name of it, again,
I am not a human being.
billboards all across America, publicizing his latest release. Is this a coincidence? That your scholars and teaching priests and teaching parents and teachers, period, have been teaching you a revelation came year and a half ago, and we begin intense teaching, is that maybe we're running late about dehumanization, this process. And a year and a half later, that we have drawn a confession, and they're putting it on the billboards all across the U.S. promoting this. And what is the title again?
I am not a human being.
Do you all think this is some kind of joke?
From the womb, he's not a human being.
He says, I am not a human being. And the last revelation, the kingdom's writing was dehumanization. No coincidence. It's a confession. And all of those that will buy those albums, attend those concerts, what are they? Well, who would be attracted to a non-human except a non-human? It is the law of relativity. The law of relativity. I see it, Atur Chazriel. I see it clearly. The final onslaught, how he's working this piece. The womb. I think this is like a ultrasound.
And in the corner, top corner, it says, not human, not routine.
Now, sisters are familiar with this shot.
Right.
I mean, the message. But do we have ears to hear? I said specifically those in the diaspora, they've got to understand the urgency of commitment. And we here, be it that we're in the sanctuary, but the urgency of commitment, total, whole commitment. We're literally fighting for our survival on this planet. So we just talked about the womb now. And we're talking about that sex orientation. And now we come.
The devil inside.
I mean, the devil inside.
Predator.
Predator. Right, this is all the same. This is Lil Wayne.
I'm back.
Who's back? The devil.
Hannibal Lecter.
There it is.
Openly bisexual.
You had enough? What kind of message? What are we supposed to say to those still in the diaspora? What are you supposed to say to anyone that come up talking about going back? Don't you see who's back? Going back. I mean, you're talking about painful. Just looking at it. This is real. This is real. I mean, start just looking at these photos. And this is just mainstream. This is one of the top hip-hop artists in Babylon. You've gone beyond. In that world, it's obvious that there is no going beyond. This is just a normal song. He's just singing this and they're playing. What about the disc jockeys that play it? What about the radio, the owners that allow it? What about those that listen to it? What about the companies that sponsor it? Can't you see the whole? The social construct. You've got to understand the necessity of whole. That all of our heart, all of our soul, and all of our might. The only message that we can give anyone in the lands still in the diaspora is, come out. Pack your bags, sit them by the door. When you get the call, and it says that don't have to go back to do nothing. When the call comes, run, flee, get out. Gender bending. Some thought, what is the role that GMOs are playing in this? Why all of this fuss? Why all of this pushing? Why all of this protection for GMOs? Because mind you now, the genetically modified organism allows the plants to consume an excessive amount of chemicals. Far beyond what would be considered normal. It can withstand it. These plants, genetically modifying. One of the things we said on the broadcast, in the interview, that if you are what you consume, can you consume genetically modified organisms and it not genetically modify you? And we're seeing now how all of this is working. All of this is working now from the womb. The role that genetically modified organisms is playing in all of this. It's something about it that is very, very sinister. Now, we've got to focus in on this and understand his strategy and the end game. That's a fierce attack. A fierce attack. The final onslaught. That environment, since they are aware that there is an environment that the sons of light, we can't survive in it. And just like the rest of his evil scientists, he understands that now. He understands and he's creating that environment. Physical immortality. Page 20, line 3. Start from line 3 from the bottom through paragraph 1, page 21. Physical immortality. Listen to this very, very carefully.
Our rhythm of life, lifestyle, social environment, culture, has to maintain and supply a sustained, continuous intake, flow of truth.
Sustained and continuous flow of truth. Mm-hmm.
All of the cultural components of such a lifestyle and environment keep the breath of life flowing abundantly. Asphyxia is the result of a lack of cultural oxygen or when excess carbon dioxide is in the body. social system, interrupting normal breathing and causing unconsciousness.
You can see now. See his plan. Slowly strangling, interrupting, suffocating. I see it. I see his plan. How he's working this plan. Asphyxia. You can't breathe. You can't breathe. Cutting off. It's almost like asthma. You struggling. And remember now, with each asthma attack, depending on how severe it is, the complications that could follow. So now, it says asphyxia, that continuous flow of truth has to be maintained in our environment. Mm-hmm.
This condition is similar to that which occurs when an adequate supply of truth to the soul of man is lacking, or when noxious lies are present.
Now, so you go into the streets now, and you're spending time in strange environments, and where there was a time maybe you could approach someone and begin talking about truth, strike up a conversation. You're hesitant about that now. So all of that, remember, he's strangling you to death. There was a time somebody would sit next to you, and you would pull out your and start reading, strike up a conversation, and begin to share some truth. All that's gone. So you see all of these avenues of inhaling truth, getting that relief, they have all been cut off now. And this is reality. You're being denied. Who do you talk to? Who do you approach? You're hesitant now, and undoubtedly, probably no one. Probably you don't go now pulling out your materials and wanting to strike up a conversation with the bishop. The man of the cloth. A star, you want to influence one of the stars, So you can see there was a time, you remember maybe 20, 30 years ago, you couldn't wait. That was like a breath. Somebody wanting to engage you in a discussion about truth. It was like, all that's gone. All that's gone. So it's almost like you having to hold your breath from the time that you depart from in the midst of the saints. And by the time you return asphyxia, you fall over into the front, into the room. You fall gasping for breath. And you have to be resuscitated. They have to bring you in and that yochai, no other. Quick! And I'm not joking. This is not a joke. All of that once existed. All that's gone. Mm-hmm.
Lies are an obstruction to one's ability to intake, breathe in truth or oxygen. They transform the individual into a willing companion.
They transform the individual into a willing companion
in his own destruction.
So now, I see that a few years ago when the Father was, under sojourn, and I saw and I reported to the saints that something is happening. They've breached the walls. And I had observed the early signs of asphyxia, that the saints were being strangled. That they were, it was hard for them now to breathe this in, that they were suffering. And I realized is that we've got to shift gears. We've got to get our people out of there. The reality of this, how is it working? Now I want you to put together all of the things that we've shared with you. You know? And now I want to go back to dementia caused by stressful lifestyle. Dementia, it affects the cognitive ability and is devastating to the memory. Devastating to the memory. Stressful lifestyles could be the key trigger for incurable Alzheimer's disease, scientists believe. When stressed, our blood pressure rises as our heart beats faster and levels of the hormone cortisol, endogenous cortisol, in the bloodstream increases. When cortisol enters the brain, it starts to kill off cells there. It begins to kill off the brain cells. So now, stress, the brain. Stress. Now, imagine in a society where you're under that kind of, it's inexplicable stress. Every day, all day, someone walking next to you, looking over your shoulder, you don't know. There are no certainties of man, woman, children. Now, stress. As part of the new study, researchers will track levels of cortisol released by the body in response to chronic stress. A number of illnesses are known to develop earlier or made worse by chronic stress, including heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and multiple sclerosis. Now, one of the main components of dementia is that it makes you forget. It says this type of stress will make you begin to forget. While the prophets have warned us, don't forget. Don't forget. So now as we look and we see in the diaspora and we see those making terrible decisions, make you forget. And to make it clear now how he's working his work, and this is unfolding. It's making the saints forget. The stress now, you can't survive in that. The stress now, an inexplicable amount of stress is pouring over and feeding into their souls, and the cortisol eating away at the cells in their brains. And this is not the frightening one, this is reality. Day to day. And it makes them forget. It says some things begin to develop earlier. Make them forget who they are. This now is making them forget, and this is why they fall away. They're forgetting who they are. They're forgetting where they are. They're forgetting. You can see that it's working. It's working as I look and I hear reports about our people in the diaspora, specifically those that are aware. Sees that they what? He left me. They're forgetting. They've forgotten who they are. They've forgotten where they are. They've forgotten what it is that they should be doing even. They have forgotten what it is that they should be doing. And this is an effect of stress. And this type of stress now in the end game they don't have a chance. They cannot survive. There is an environment that we cannot survive in. That type of an environment. The stress is overwhelming. And mind you now, it's coming without a face. You can't point. It's coming without a face. It's coming under a banner of freedom of choice, freedom of speech. Dementia coming earlier now. Remember, from the womb now, changing the sexual orientation of the children. So now, look, they're forgetting. They've forgotten. And that's how they and why they fall away. That's why they pull back on their commitment. They literally don't know anymore. They've forgotten who they are. They've literally forgotten where they are. Because this type of stress, pouring that cortisol into their brain, and their brain is being eaten away. And this is in effect. They've forgotten, they have no idea what it is that they're supposed to be doing. At this point, at this stage of our development, when we look out and see those things, it tells us to, hey, you better get tighter than tight. Better ratchet up. Because you wonder, you say, but what is the vision of someone that leaves, from in the midst of the sainthood? Somebody's living in Philadelphia and they say, I'm going to leave, I'm no longer a part. I just like something has happened to their brain. Something has happened to their brain. Because they have forgotten, and the prophets have warned us of the dangers when you begin to forget. When you begin to forget, it says, don't forget. Many scriptures remind us, don't come under that spirit that will make you forget. And we can see it now. We can see it. What he's doing is he's strengthening them. And all of those avenues of relief, cutting them off. And he himself has now initiated a fierce attack. A fierce attack. And if we don't move expediently, totally committed, all of our heart, soul, and might, they won't survive. They can't survive in that environment. There's no way. And you can see him slowly cutting them off from all of the outlets. Somebody sit beside you on the bus now, you go mum. You and hope they don't say nothing to you. Remember, you used to put your Bibles on your arm and go out and sit there, and you were ready. Now, you don't say nothing and don't want anyone saying anything to you. This is real. This is now. At this very moment, they can't survive. They can't survive in that environment. And the sons of darkness are aware of that. And that's why this fierce attack against the sons of light can't survive. The prophets have warned us. All we can say, pack your bags and be ready. Pack your bags and be ready. And if you know somebody else is getting ready before you, help them. Help them to get ready. Whoever is ready, and they get their call, help them. There is no other way. There is no other salvation. Now, you look at the kingdom and you can see the reality. You can see Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter, verses 4 through 9. You can see the magnitude of what is written there. And these things shall be in your heart, because This is the breath of life. And to put them in that predicament now, it says, when you walk by the way, that's been cut off. Deuteronomy 6th chapter, I think, starting at the 4th verse. Makes them a willing companion in their own destruction. They forget, and they go, and all that they can do, the only vision beyond this kingdom is self-destruction. But they have forgotten. They don't understand that at this time, at this point in our history, commitment, should be increased, ratchet up. Fear of Yah. They've forgotten where they are. That's the land of the captivity, fulfilling its purpose. And in the end game now, it has opened up a fierce frontal attack against the sons of light.
Hear, O Israel, Yah our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love Yah thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house.
Now, let us check off, this checklist says that you diligently, these words which I command thee this day, that they should be diligently present in your environment.
When thou walkest by the way.
Now, when thou sittest in thine house, a possibility. But when you leave that environment, when you walk by the way now in the lands of the captivity, gone. Gone. So you can see the asphyxiation, strangling them. Because now when they leave home, the process begins. Farther they go, the farther they wander away. This is the reality. When you walk by the way, no one to that breath of life, that intake, that inhaling and exhaling of truth, gone.
When thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
Thou liest down, and when thou risest up, be careful. Be careful. Be very selective. So you can see those verses. You have to have that continuous flow. That continuous flow. And now you can see the great blessing of this kingdom. The great blessing of this kingdom. How we're comfortably inhaling and exhaling this truth. And the message now, those in the diaspora and those at home, let us go to Isaiah the 26th chapter, verses 20 and 21. The Euro-Gentile, the world of the ungodly. They have descended, reached the depth which equates to the end of their world. You're looking right at it. They have reached the depth of what equates to the end of their world. The end of their world. And that's why this fierce attack now. I'm not human. You don't have no choice in the sexual orientation of your children. He said he wasn't human from the womb. The devil. You can see all of this now. When you put it all together, you can't survive in that kind of environment. You can't survive in that kind of environment.
Come, my people.
Now, the only hope, the only way to survive at this time, the prophet says, come, my people.
Enter thou into thy chambers.
Enter thou into thy chambers. Stay in your own personal space, environment. as often as possible, stay in your own environment. Stay in your own space. Whatever closeness that you had to one another, get closer to one another. Because remember, when they leave home, they've got to have enough energy, enough truth in their lungs to survive. And while you're together, there's nothing else to talk about. Because it's like now getting a little extra, some excess truth, air in their lungs now. Because when they get out there, they've got to hold their breath. So you've got to put these extra canisters of truth in their lungs now. There is no time to be with anyone else. Run out of air. So it says, come, my people, enter into thy chambers. Your personal space now. Remain in your personal space as often as possible. If you're close, get closer. Mm-hmm.
And shut thy doors about thee.
And shut thy doors. Be circumspect. And be circumspect who you let in. Mm-hmm.
Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment.
Hide thyself, as it were, for a moment. Why?
Until the indignation is past.
Until the indignation is past. Mm-hmm.
For behold,
y'all cometh
place,
out of his place
to punish the inhabitants of the earth.
To punish the inhabitants of this earth. This is it. This is it. There's nothing else. We can see his in-game move. We can see his in-game move. We can see the kingdom magnified now. We can understand why those that come home now don't want to leave. Because now this effect, and if you think that that's not having what I've shared with you is not having an effect, that's an effect. That in itself is an effect. You cannot survive in that environment. That's why the sons of darkness have created that environment. We can't survive in that. That's why the kingdom moving in perfect measure, that's why it exists at this time. And you, if those individuals are not walking this planet, they would arrive too late. They would arrive, as it got wrong, they wouldn't get here in time. They wouldn't get here in time. So now, stay in our own space as often as possible. And when you get out there, that remember now, lies and controversy, it saps your breath from you. It's like carbon dioxide, Nazi. It interrupts that flow. All that's gone now. Anyone that is not praying for our success don't know how to pray. And beyond that, they're not human. Anyone that's praying for us to fail, something's wrong with their brain. Anyone talking about going back, or anyone sending and requesting someone to come back, they're your enemy. That's your enemy. Anyone trying to convince you to return there to reside, not for something official, to reside, that's your enemy. That's your enemy. Anyone convincing you to fall away from any of the jurisdictions and to go on your own, you cannot survive. It is going to be hard to survive within the jurisdiction and within the environment of the saints. Very complicated. But to fall away, you will not survive. You cannot survive under that stress. It will suffocate you. You will begin to, you have forgot. And you lose consciousness. There is no other environment. There is no other salvation. The environment in the jurisdiction is made up of the saints. And you must have it. You must have that flow, that sustained flow of truth. You cannot survive without it. Well, I'm going to leave. I'm going and do mine. You don't have no choice. You're finished. Dehumanization. It's making them forget. It's making them forget. Stress without a face. Inexplicable stress, but you just got through observing. Inexplicable stress pouring in every day, all day. Unlimited. You can't survive in it. Don't kid yourselves. You cannot survive in it. So the Father is saying, those in the jurisdictions, that whatever closeness, get closer. Stay in our own personal space as often as possible. And when you're in that space, and these words which I speak unto you today, keep that flow. Because that's what's going to protect them when they have to venture out for a day or for a week, when they have to go beyond that environment. There is no time for controversy. Breaking that sustained flow. I mean, well, you know, man, you don't know. That's stress. Stay in our space. And the same here at home. Don't get to venturing out. We don't have it. Those that want to argue, tell them to argue with each other. Keep that flow. Get closer and closer to each other. The magnification of the sanctuary. You can see it. I see what he has done. It is obvious, his plan. It is unfolded now. And if they do not stay close to you, calling you calling them, whatever that they needed, other than that, they won't survive. They cannot survive. Only in that environment that we've created in the jurisdictions, that's the only place you're going to find life support. The only place you're going to find life support. So they invite you now to speak at a church. You don't know what subject to deal with. And this is literally, what do you talk about? What do you say? I mean, so you can see all that now. You don't want any more invitations now to speak. I mean, that's gone. There was a time when that was refreshing. All gone, right before your eyes. All gone. All gone. All gone. So, I wanted to take the first portion. This, you see the level of stress being emitted in the social system now, and it is literally overwhelming. And the beauty of the sanctuary, to know that wherever you reside, you can always come in to the sanctuary, and in the sanctuary, that's all you're going to do. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! I mean, the sanctuary. And you can see, the sanctuary, the Edenic lands, magnifying the significance of the Edenic lands. Only message that we have for them, get close, stay in our space, come out. Come out. Soon as an opportunity arises, come out. Because if you think that that's not affecting you, that's an effect. So we wanted to direct that great portion of emphasis for our babies, our extended families in the diaspora, and then for you to understand the significance of contact with them, communication with them. All of that now is playing a major role in understanding the dangerous predicament that they are in. And accept that we succeed, they can't survive. There is no other name, there is no other God, and there is no other salvation. Selah.